walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa sallallahu wa sallama wa baraka ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'een. Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna 'ilman wa 'amalan mutaqabbalan ya arhamar rahimin. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sahla wa anta ya hayyu ya qayyum taj'alul hazna idha shi'ta sahlan sahla. لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to our latest class on the fiqh of Salah, the fiqh of prayer from the book Nur al Idaah. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you are in blessed times, in good times, insha'Allah ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless every one of you and protect all of you. And inshallah we will commence today on the sunan of salah. So what is sunnah in the salah is what will be our discussion in today's class, inshallah ta'ala. So as usual we have Brother Hassan with us today to read, and I'll be handing over to him and he'll be reading the text and we'll be commentating on it as usual. Barakallahu feekum. So handing over to Brother Hassan, inshallah ta'ala.
Prayer 51. To raise the hands for the opening Allahu Akbar to the level of the ears for a man and slave. A free woman is to raise her hands to the level of the shoulders.
Jazakallah khairan. So we start our prayer by saying Allahu Akbar, which is an obligation, which is, the wording is wajib, which we discussed last time. We're just going to be going through the sunan of the prayer. So saying Allahu Akbar is an obligation, or the particular word is a wajib, but to raise the hands is a sunnah. So you can't say prayer without raising the hands, but of course we follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and we apply this to our prayers. And for the men is to the level of the earlobes. And the same is there for a slave, right? For the ladies, it doesn't mention it here. So it says a free woman is to raise her hands to the level of her shoulders. It does mention it at the bottom, sorry. Hassan did read that. For the ladies, it'd be about here. For the men, up to the ears, right? And you don't have to touch your earlobe. Some people ask the question, do I have to touch my thumb to my earlobe? This is just to get an idea of whereabouts the hand and the head is, right? So yeah, you can just kind of, some people touch it, but you just, if you're confident it's next to the head, about the head height, Allahu Akbar with both hands, Allahu Akbar, and then you do the next sunnah, which would be to tie your hands. Again, differs from men and women. With women, Allahu Akbar will be about here to the shoulders, and then they place the hands slightly above. So if you read on, we'll find out what else to do during the Allahu Akbar, and then where to put the hands afterwards. Tafaddal.
To stretch the fingers at the opening Allahu Akbar is a sunnah.
Yeah, so again, what it means to stretch the fingers, it means to keep them like fully spread out, not to have them like this, Allahu Akbar, curved up, or to hold them together like this, like that they all joint together, but leave them naturally. So you have to spread them out like this, just naturally like this. That's naturally, I'm not trying to make them in or out. And then just have them there. So don't have them in like this, or don't have them and facing the palms for the Qibla as well, inshallah ta'ala. Next one.
It is sunnah for the follower behind the imam to say his opening takbir together with his imam.
Yeah, so when do you say Allahu Akbar when you're following an imam? You say Allahu Akbar as soon as the imam says. There's no need to delay the Allahu Akbar. Again, if you look at the notes on that particular point, it says, Imam Abu Hanifa says it should be as simultaneous as possible. Obviously, you have to be slightly behind. Whereas the Sahibain say you should let the Imam finish completely and then start your takbir after his takbir. Imam Abu Hanifa says as soon as you hear the Imam saying Allah, you say Allah. And when he says Akbar, you say Akbar, like almost as close as possible to the Imam. But always stay behind the Imam, because you can't do your takbir before the Imam. That would be invalid. So if you're following an imam, just do your takbir as soon as you can after he has done his takbir. If you move on to the next one.
It is sunnah for the male to place his right hand over his left hand under the navel, and the technique of this placement is to place the inside of the right hand over the top part of the left hand, forming a circle with the little finger and the thumb around the wrist.
Yeah, Jazakallah khairan. So this is for the men. The female placing of the hands will be mentioned next. So the men, after doing the Allahu Akbar to the earlobes, would bring their hands down to below the navel, and they would place, I'm going to raise my hand just to show you, they would place the 3 fingers over the wrist area, and they would use their thumb and their small finger to make a ring around and clasp, and then you place that underneath there like that, right? So if I show it you there is a bit better, right? But that's how you do it. You can, and the hadith do mention just the clasp, just grabbing like this, yeah, or they just mention as well for men just placing the hand on the hand without any clasping. So 2 separate ways, but you can combine them both by having the fingers, 3 fingers spread, and then the thumb and the small finger clasping. For the ladies, as I'm going to mention, they just put hand over hand on their chests. Okay, if you read that, Hassan, please.
It is sunnah for a female to place her hands on her chest without formation of a circle with her hands.
Yeah, straightforward. So just place hand on hand and on the chest. Yeah, Bismillah.
The opening glorification.
So the opening glorification is, as you can see, the Arabic is called athana, just one word there, and that is to say Subhanakallahumma bihamdika wa tabarak asmuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayruk, or any other form of thana that's from the sunnah is sunnah to do at this point. There are actually more than that, just one, but that's the most famous, widespread, taught and practiced by the Prophet ﷺ. If you look at the hadith, hence it's the one we actually practice. But there are other forms of opening the prayer which you can learn from the books of Shama'il or the books of Adhkar, of remembrances and litanies, inshallah ta'ala. But the concept here is you should start your prayer, it's etiquette and it's sunnah to start with some glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thana. Next one.
To seek protection in Allah from the accursed Satan for the recitation of Quran.
Yeah, so to seek protection is ta'awudh, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and to seek the protection from the whispers and the effects and from the shaitan. For recitation of the Quran, that means if you're reading the Quran, you should do this. If you're reading the Quran, you should be reciting the ta'awudh. Now, somebody might say, well, of course you're going to read the Quran in prayer. Well, if you're behind the imam, as we already learned previously, recitation behind the imam is not allowed. It's not supposed to be done. So if you're not going to be reading the Quran in a congregation, you're not the imam, then it's not a sunnah or requirement to read A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Although some scholars have said, it says here it's for the recitation, although some scholars, including them, among them is Imam Abu Yusuf rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that yes, you should read the ta'awudh for your salah, so not for the recitation. Just generally you need protection in your salah from the whispers of shaitan, from etc. So it's for the salah. So on that opinion, which I'm presenting to you because I think it's good for us to follow that today, to give ourselves more protection, when you start your prayer behind the imam even, then say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim after thana as well, and then wait for the imam to commence the Fatiha, which is with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That you don't have to recite. That's not sunnah to recite that unless you are reading the Quran or Surah Al-Fatiha, which the imam will be. So it's sunnah for the imam to recite Basmala, which is next, and then Surah Fatiha is actually a wajib, as we said, but some Quran would be a wajib after that. So next one, Hassan.
To say, in the name of God, most merciful, most compassionate, at the beginning of every rak'ah.
Yeah, so you're going to start every rakaat with Bismillah. Every rakaat meaning the Quran at the beginning of every rakaat. So on the first rakaat it'll be after the thana and the ta'awudh, but every other rakaat it'll be as soon as you stand. It's sunnah to say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Next one.
To say Amin after the Fatiha.
Yep. So to say Amin. So when the imam recites Al-Fatiha and finishes out loud, you will say Amin. If you're by yourself and you've finished your Surah Al-Fatiha, it's sunnah to say Amin after reciting Al-Fatiha. Even outside of Salah, actually, whenever you recite Surah Al-Fatiha, it's sunnah to say Amin. But of course in the Salah as well. And if you do it with the imam, it's more rewarding. Obviously praying congregation is more rewarding, but also saying Amin in the prayer is also a source of reward and forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next one.
It is sunnah to praise God by saying Our Lord, praise is only for you.
Yeah, so again, like we said, we're going through the sunan. So you think next would be recitation of the Quran after basmala, and then ruku, and then standing from the ruku. So why we're not mentioning those? We've done them in our previous lessons. You can watch the videos of those recorded classes. We talked about the fard, what's absolutely necessary, the like 5-6 fard, and then a lot of details with them. And then we talked about the wajibat last time. So now we're just talking about when we go through the prayer at the end of this section, or after finishing the sunan and the adab, and then we're going to go through the prayer again from beginning to end without necessarily saying wajib, but just go through how a prayer is to be performed. What we're doing first is we're breaking down all the components of prayer into their relative requirements. So fard is absolute must, wajib is necessary, but you can get away with it by rectifying it. You can't rectify missing a fard, you can't rectify missing a wajib. And sunan, you lose rewards if you miss it, but there's no rectification or makeup or kind of to do anything to resolve that missing a sunnah. You just missed a sunnah, you missed a reward, it's not good. So that's what we're going to go through as a whole prayer afterwards. We're just categorizing right now. So we move on to the Alhamdulillah, or Rabbana lakal hamd, or Rabbana wa lakal hamd, and in some reports Allahumma Rabbana lakal hamd. The most famous and the most short and the easier one is Rabbana lakal hamd. I think we're all accustomed to that one, so just stick to that one. It's from the sunnah, it's in the wording of the hadith. So that is said after, so saying Sami Allah liman hamida actually first is a sunnah for the imam, and for the followers it's Rabbana lakal hamd. Like you're praying by yourself, both would be sunnah. So when you come out of ruku, Sami Allah liman hamida, it's sunnah to say that, Rabbana lakal hamd while standing, and then obviously to say Allahu Akbar to go into the sajda. This is the takbir now, that's a sunnah. The first takbir was a fard, and we didn't mention that in this section. Now we're going to mention, or soon after, we're going to talk about recitation in a moment, but we're going to mention that the takbir, I hope we might not be, but the takbir anyway, for ruku actually, we need to mention for the ruku, is a sunnah. So we're going to mention later, the takbir for the ruku is sunnah, the takbir for the sajda is sunnah. These takbir, if they're missed out, don't affect the prayer because they're not fard or wajib. The first one must occur for you to commence the prayer. But yeah, let's carry on this part.
It is sunnah to recite all these utterances silently.
Yeah, so all the utterances meaning A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and Rabbana Sami Allah liman hamida, Rabbana lakal hamd. If you're praying by yourself, it's always going to be silently. But if you're praying with the congregation, then the imam will read A'udhu billah silently, and you, if you want to read it, you'll read it silently, and Bismillah silently, and say Amin silently. That was one of them, right? And also the imam will say Rabbana lakal hamd silently, he won't say out loud. The followers actually will say Rabbana lakal hamd out loud. So that last one isn't included in the silently for the followers. And the note above it says that although they held that the last part says silently, I by the imam. So the imam says Sami Allah liman hamida out loud, you don't say anything, and then you say Rabbana lakal hamd out loud, whilst the imam says Rabbana lakal hamd quietly to himself, doesn't say out loud, he lets the followers say out loud. So that's how the recitations are done in terms of, obviously recitation we already talked about when it's wajib to read out loud, and when it's wajib to remain silent, or to read quietly. We said you ought to read something. We've already done that in the wajib section. As for these utterances, as it says there, they're done quietly if you're praying by yourself, or if the imam's praying, he does them all quietly. The one where you say Rabbana lakal hamd is done loud by the congregation after the imam. Even Amin, you might hear some people say Amin out loudly. There's a difference of opinion on that. For the Hanafi madhab, it's said quietly to oneself after the imam finishes Fatiha, inshallah ta'ala. So next one.
To stand upright at the time of the opening Allahu Akbar without hanging the head.
Yeah, so what that means is, we already explained that you can't do your Allahu Akbar whilst close to ruku, where your hands would reach your knees. Also, amongst the sunnah is to do your Allahu Akbar with your head straight. So if I turn my head slightly to the side, and you can see my head is a bit straight now, like the head and my body are perpendicular, or they're in line with each other. If I bend my hand forward now and I say Allahu Akbar, that's not the sunnah, because my head is, this is called ta'ta' al-ra's, as it says there, which is hanging the head, right? This, I should be like this, and then I should say Allahu Akbar, and that is the sunnah way of starting the prayer. It's valid to say like this because I'm not bending my back, I'm bending my neck. But it's not sunnah to bend your neck and say Allahu Akbar, as some people do. They bend their neck forward. You stay upright and your neck straight, and Allahu Akbar. That's the sunnah method of starting one's prayer. Next one, Hassan.
It is sunnah for the imam to say the opening Allahu Akbar aloud as well as the tasbih.
Yeah, so he's mentioned that now. So the Allahu Akbar at the beginning, to say out loud is actually a sunnah. To say is a fard, and to say the words Allahu Akbar specifically is wajib. To say out loud is a sunnah, and of course it's going to be very tough to follow an imam. You don't need to start the prayer, so really necessary almost to say out loud. But to say out loud is a sunnah. It means it's valid prayer, and you don't have to. What that means is, imagine if, given a scenario where it wouldn't be said out loud. Imagine if for the imam, imagine if somebody's praying alone. So you're at home now, right, and you're praying alone, or you're in the masjid and you're praying alone, and you start your prayer Allahu Akbar, but you didn't say out loud. You're praying by yourself. Now, men can join other men in congregation. So you're praying your Zuhr late at the masjid, for instance. You arrive late or something, and somebody comes and says, "Oh, he's praying Zuhr. I'll join him," and he says Allahu Akbar and joins you. But you didn't say Allahu Akbar loud. It doesn't make a difference. You said Allahu Akbar, which is what counts. Saying it out loud as an imam is sunnah. Not saying it out loud as an imam doesn't mean somebody can't follow you and join you. If they look at you and he's reading Quran, is he praying? He's praying. Yeah, I'll join him. Yeah, he can join you. So you don't have to say the takbir out loud for you to be an imam. Of course, it makes sense to do that, and obviously it will be done. We're just going through these technical kind of rulings. But as you can see, these are just how things practically work out as well. And the tasmiyah is the Sami Allah liman hamid. That's what the imam says that out loud. So the imam says the Allahu Akbar for the beginning and for every part of the prayer out loud, and also the Sami Allah liman hamid that I said out loud for the imam. And as you already said, the Rabbana lakal hamd is quiet for the imam, loud for the followers, right? Out loud. Bismillah.
Spreading the feet the distance equal to 4 fingers when standing.
Yeah, so the difference between your feet on the floor, so imagine these are your 2 feet. How far apart should my feet be? Generally for ladies, closer together. Even for men, there's no need to go very far apart. That's about 4 fingers apart now. And you can see I've got 4 fingers out, so the same gap as my width of my hands would be in the middle, about that much. There's no harm in going handspan, this much, right? If I get my finger out there, so one hand there, and 1 foot there, and one would have been about there-ish, right? So that's about a handspan apart. There's nothing wrong with that. If it's a bit more, shoulder length apart is fine, but don't go too far apart. The actual sunnah is to keep your feet closer together. Is more conducive and more comfortable for longer standing as well, if they like that. And that's why it's sunnah to spread the feet apart as such. Next one. Sorry, Hassan. Sorry, say that again, Hassan. Sorry.
Okay. For the Fajr and Zohar prayer, the surah that follows the Fatiha is to be from the lengthy part of the Mufassal section. And for the Asr and Isha, the surah is from the medium part. And for the Maghrib prayer, it is sunnah to recite from the smallest part. And this is provided one is a resident.
Thank you. Yeah, so as the normal residents, we're going to pray our prayers. We should select the sunnah recitations. Okay, so we should try and pray from the sections of the Quran. The Prophet predominantly, not every single time, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but most of the time he prayed from particular areas of the Quran. As we find, if you go through the hadith, kind of investigate, you'll see that, as Imam Shurm Bulali mentions here, approximately these are the times, or these are the places or the surahs from the Quran that were predominantly recited. You can recite anything, it's fine. Sunnah is to try and recite from these areas as much as possible. It's actually from the Sunnah to recite other places at times as well. It doesn't mean you should spend the rest of your life just in this section of the Quran. You should read all the other surahs as well at some point, if you're Hafiz of Quran, etc. But try and make, obviously for those who don't know much of the Quran, we do memorize the end of the Quran. The Mufassal is the end of the Quran, or the last 7th of the Quran. Scholars differ to start from Surah Al-Hujurat 49, or it start from Surah Fatah 48. But from that part of the Quran, roughly, Surah Hujurat, all the way to the end is called the Mufassal. Okay, so first we define the Mufassal of the Quran. The last 7th of the Quran is called the Mufassal. Make a note of that. Those of you who got the book, it's easy to follow here. It says from Surah Hujurat, although others have said Surah Fatah, Surah Muhammad even before that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to Surah Nas. The Tiwal al-Mufassal, the long surahs of the Mufassal, are from Hujurat all the way to Surah or just before Surah Al-Buruj, Surah Al-Inshiqaq. Surah Al-Inshiqaq is the second to last sajda. It's got sajda in that surah. So from Surah 49 to Surah 80 something, I don't recall exactly what it is. Surah Inshiqaq, وَالسَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ وَأَذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ وَإِذَا الْأَرْضُ مُدَّتْ وَأَلْقَتْ مَا فِيهَا وَتَخَلَّتْ is a surah from the end of the Quran. And Surah Buruj is the next surah, وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوج. That comes from the Tiwal al-Awsat al-Mufassal, the medium section of the Mufassal. So the longer surahs of the Mufassal, they're all short compared to the rest of the Quran, but the longer surahs are the first section, which is the longest section as well. And those surahs, it says, should be recited for the Asr and Isha prayers, right? It says Tiwal Mufassal fil Fajri wal Dhuhri. Sorry, my mistake, I've jumped. For the Fajr and Zuhr prayers, it should be the lengthy one. So Fajr, the first two prayers of the day, Fajr and Dhuhr, try to pick a surah from those surahs. If you don't know a surah from them, you might not actually know a surah from there. It's fine to read anything of the Quran. Just talking about what's the Sunnah here. Try to implement this. And then for Asr and Isha, not Asr and Maghrib, but Asr, Miss Maghrib, Isha, these two prayers, to recite from the Awsat al-Mufassal, which is the middle section of Mufassal, which is now from Surah Al-Buruj, right, which is وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوج, all the way to Surah Al-Qadr, I believe, right? So it says Surah Al-Bayyinah. Surah Al-Bayyinah is from the last. Surah Al-Qadr, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ, is the end of the Awsat al-Mufassal, okay? Those surahs should be selected for Asr and Isha predominantly, not every single prayer, not all the time for the rest of your life, but as much as you could. Let's say, in the 7 days in a week, if 3, 4, 5 days you could do that, brilliant. And other days you can recite from anywhere in the Quran. That's what it's talking about. It's not saying you have to do this, and if you don't do other than this, you don't get as much rewards. The Sunnah is to recite predominantly from this section. Please put that condition, or remember that, because you find hadith of the Prophet recite from Surah Kahf, Surah Yusuf, Surah Baqarah, Surah, other surahs from the beginning of the Quran in certain prayers as well. Not as common, because for the congregation you keep it short. But you do find some of the longer surahs were read by the Sahaba as well. So if you look at the life of the Sahaba, they would read longer surahs as well during the prayer times, and they're the students of the Prophet ﷺ, so they knew what they were doing. So it's not against the Sunnah to read the longer surahs as well. I think it's reported that Sayyidina Umar read Surah Al-Kahf in Fajr Salah. Surah Al-Kahf is number Surah 18 of the Quran. It's read on Fridays. He read that whole surah in Fajr Salah, so it's quite long. 3/4 of a juz' of a sapara. So he read that much in Fajr, just as a normal Fajr, not like any special kind of day or anything. He just was something he did. May Allah be pleased with him. And then for Maghrib Salah, which is left, the remainder of the Quran is called the Qisar al-Mufassal, the shorter length surahs of the last 7th of the Quran, which is the Mufassal, which starts from Surah Al-Bayyinah, لَمْ يَكُنِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ مُنْفَكِّينَ حَتَّى تَأْتِيَهُمُ الْبَيِّنَةِ. This surah, which is actually quite long, it's not the shorter one of the end, but it starts from there, the Qisar al-Mufassal, all the way to Surah An-Nas. And in Maghrib, select surahs from this section, insha'Allah ta'ala. So hope that makes sense. You should really make a few notes. They are, for those of you who got the book of the PDF, it is mentioned there, but maybe make a diagram. Mufassal is from Surah Hujurat to the end of the Quran. It's 1/7. The Qisar, the Tiwal al-Mufassal are these surahs. Put the numbers as well. The Awsat, the medium Mufassal are these surahs. Inclusive. So I'm doing it in a sense where it's inclusive. When it says here, two surah al-Buruj, in Arabic, when it says that, it means up to and not including. Right? That's generally how it means. Ila in Arabic means. It can mean including sometimes, but predominantly it means up to and not including. So up to Surah Al-Buruj, I'm not including it. Then from Surah Al-Buruj, I'm including Surah Al-Buruj. Up to this next Surah, Al-Bayyinah, I'm not including Bayyinah. So just make a note of those sections. And try to learn some. If you don't know any, then maybe try and learn a surah from each section or couple, so you can actually practice the sunnah at some point in your life, in your prayers, right? And read from these surahs of the Quran. Okay, that's for it says there is for a resident. Law kana muqiman, if the person is a resident. If you're a traveler, what do you do? What's the sunnah? Bismillah, Hassan.
If one is a traveler, then he may recite any surah he wishes.
Yep, that's it. Next one.
To lengthen only the first rakaat of the dawn prayer is sunnah.
Yeah, so how should we balance our rakats in prayers? So first rakaat, second rakaat is going to be mentioned later, or that it's disliked to make the second rakaat longer than the first rakaat. Okay, it's not invalid, it's just not balanced. Generally, you should try to keep a balance of 1 or 2 ayat, or not much difference between the first and second rakaat. However, in the Fajr Salah, and just mentions Fajr for that reason, making the first one actually quite lengthy, and the second one doesn't have to be short, but not as lengthy. So there might be a substantial difference, like it might be a whole page difference or 2-page difference. First rakat you might read 5 pages, second rakat you might read 1 page of the Quran, right? Or in the first rakat you might read a longer surah of 2 pages, and second rakat you might read a surah of half a page. It's quite a substantial difference. That's actually good and sunnah in the Fajr prayer. The Prophet would lengthen it, because why people are waking up, it's one prayer where people become late, because they come later, and in the hope that, the first rakat's longer, I'm late, so I could possibly get to the Jamaat even though I'm late for Fajr, right? Because the first rakat's extended for us. So that's the wisdom, or it's a sunnah as well, and the Prophet ﷺ practiced that. So Bismillah, try and the Imam should try to lengthen the first rakat of the Fajr prayer, inshallah ta'ala. So moving on to the next one. Sorry, Hassan. Bismillah.
It is sunnah to utter the takbir of Ruku and to glorify God 3 times therein.
Yeah, so the takbir of the Ruku, Allahu Akbar, is sunnah before you go in, and then to say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, that's called tasbih. 3 times is the sunnah. This is in the fard prayers, you should stick to 3, sunnah to do 3. In the nafil prayers, it's actually sunnah to do more, so you want to do 5, 7, 10. Sayyidina Anas reports, I used to do 10 tasbihat in my ruku and sujood. So you can do 10 if you want. Odd number is better, but the hadith he says 10. So if you want to do more tasbihat, leave that for your sunnah, your nafil prayers. In the fard, it's sunnah to do 3, and obviously the whole idea of the congregation is you've got people behind you. In the time of Prophet there was women and children, and everyone was like, it wasn't like today where we only shut down due to a coronavirus or something, right? In the time of the Prophet prayer was shut down, shops were closed, families were just all they wanted to do was come to the masjid and pray with the Prophet ﷺ. That's all they wanted to do. So imagine the whole society just shutting down. So the Prophet didn't want to keep them for a long time. If it was a long prayer, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and things are happening, children might be in sleep, and when he would hear children, the hadith says in Bukhari, when he would hear a child crying in his prayer, he would make the prayer, shorten it, as in make it quicker and not rush it, but finish the prayer so that the lady folk could attend to their children. Which shows the ladies would actually come to the masjid and pray in the masjid very clearly, because obviously praying behind the Prophet ﷺ, I don't think that's something you could ever miss and lose out on. You'd want every single moment with the Prophet ﷺ, and if there's a prayer to be prayed behind him, it is better than to stay at home. Of course, the ruling for ladies is to stay at home, and that's better for them, but we shouldn't, as the Prophet himself said, stop the ima Allah, the female slaves of Allah, attending the masajid. And the whole other ruling on that, obviously, you may hear that it's not allowed, or it's not recommended, it's disliked, due to the problems that arose in the time of the Sahaba. They even said it. They said, in the time of Prophet, ladies used to come, now things have got bad. Imagine the time of the Sahaba themselves, female Sahaba are saying this. It's well reported from Sayyidah Aisha in Bukhari, that she said, had the Prophet been here now, he would have stopped women coming to the masjid because of the stuff going on. But that's the opinion of a female companion and other companions, but it's not necessarily everyone's opinion at that time. And throughout time, many scholars have given the fatwa, women should not come to the masjid, it causes problems, this, that, the other. But it differs from time to time and setup to setup. Sometimes, unfortunately, and it's not a good thing, the masajid don't have that facility, and sometimes it's just not possible due to the resources and space and funds sometimes, right? They just build one hall and that's it. It's not accommodating or suitable for everyone to come and etc. So it's sometimes a case of necessities. But if it can be accommodated, then they should be accommodated. The Prophet, he said that, we should accommodate them in this house of Allah to come and take part in those blessings with the angels, with the prayers, with the Quran. It's actually something that, even though it may not be a requirement on ladies, they should actually do in their lifetimes and be in these beautiful places of barakah and blessings, inshallah ta'ala. But that's another topic in itself. The ruling here, as we can see, is saying tasbih 3 times, and we're talking about the Prophet ﷺ not lengthening the prayer too much when it was a full congregation. And this is spirituality. This is, not just praying an outward prayer and, just this, that, the other. What we need to, and this is fiqh, so it is the outer of the prayer, but what we need to understand is the spiritual aspect of the prayer, the inner dimension of the prayer, as it's called sometimes. And that prayer is to worship Allah with concentration, with focus. And we don't want to make it too long so people are thinking of, I've left this at home, I've left that at home. But they had a routine of the prayer, like it's going to be this much length. The Prophet's prayer is good, calm, and so forth. So in the fard, tasbih should, sunnah is to do it 3 times. Next one, Hassan.
It is sunnah to grab the knees with the hands and to spread the fingers out. The female is not to extend the knees. And also sunnah in the bowing posture to keep the legs vertical while the back is straight and to make the head even with the buttocks.
Yeah, so now talking about the actual, so prostration, hands to the knees, you've done your obligation, and to pause as well is a wajib, right? So talked about that before. So actually now the sunnahs of the ruku, to actually hold the knees, to clasp the knees is a sunnah, and to spread the fingers out, so full kind of clasp onto the knees. Imagine if that's my knee, it's my elbow, but imagine that's my knee, and you clasp onto it, so you clasp on with the full fingers. You don't hold them together like this, put them together. You spread them out and clasp on like that. Hope that's clear. With your knees, of course, right? I'm just giving you my elbow because it's a protruding bone, like similar to the knee. And the ladies aren't supposed to do that. So ladies do keep their hands together. They don't spread them out. So for ladies it's different. When you're in prostration for men as well, you should keep the legs like vertical, as in not bent, so you don't bend your knees, or you go into a bending posture. Some people might do that, you might see that. Most likely back problems, most likely it's not comfortable for them for whatever reason. I've seen shuyukh do this, it's not a problem. They're not trying to avoid the sunnah or do it incorrectly, but it's just sometimes the posture for people has issues. You should always bear that in mind and think somebody's got a reason for not following the sunnah. Maybe he doesn't also teach him, but I'm sure sometimes it's a genuine reason. And also, whilst you've got your legs straight, you should also have your back perpendicular to your legs and straight. So your back shouldn't be like, it should be 90 degrees to your legs, or as much as you can. It shouldn't be like, you're just at, or the more degrees would be like, 110, 20 degrees. As long as your hands reach the knees, you've got a ruku, but try and go down to a level. Don't go too far down, so don't make it less than 90 degrees. So don't go to this one and your head is facing down like that, so you're at like 80 degrees. Try and keep your head straight like this and perpendicular to the legs, and try to keep a 90 degree. And also keep your back straight, so don't have your back curled down with your head curled down. So keep your head and your back and where your buttocks are, he says there. Try and keep that all as one level. That's a sunnah. Obviously, you just got to be kind of try your best to do that, inshallah ta'ala. So next one, Hassan.
To rise from the ruku and then stand for a moment in serenity.
So and we talked about this last time. I said to you last time, this is a wajib which is going to be mentioned in the sunnah section, because there is an opinion that this, and there's a big discussion with the Hanafi madhab, that this is a wajib or a sunnah. So going into ruku is fard. Staying in ruku and pausing is a wajib. So don't rush that one. Coming out of ruku, it says here is a sunnah. And standing still for a moment, it says here is a sunnah. And then saying Sami Allahu liman hamdah rabbana lakal hamd, already said is a sunnah. What we're saying now, and we said this last time as well, it's a wajib to come out of this ruku to standing position. It's a wajib to pause for a moment. And then it's a fard, obviously, to go down and make your sajda, right? So remember that. So make a note here. Ulama of Hanafi madhab have differed, and the safer ruling and the practice ruling and the fatwa is that you rise out of ruku and you pause as a wajib, not as a sunnah. Well, the difference basically is, if you did rush to that, you missed a sunnah on the opinion it's sunnah and there's nothing to do in your prayer. And on the opinion it's a wajib, meaning it's a requirement, if you don't do that, you don't stand up erect and stand still and go into ruku like that. If you don't do that, then what happens? Then you've made a mistake. Then you've left a wajib, and that requires rectification, as we said at the beginning. And that's with the sajdatu sahwi, a prostration of forgetfulness. So do bear that in mind, just to make a note here. I've got it in my books and everything. So and then in the other books, like the commentaries of Hidayah, like Fath al-Qadir and other books, they discuss this in length. And majority of scholars outside of the Hanafi madhab as well regard it as a requirement of the prayer, not something that is a sunnah or a recommendation. It's actually a requirement, a wajib, and very, very important not to miss that out. So don't be lax in that. Try and stand up still before you go into sajda. Okay, hope that makes sense. Off you go, Hassan.
When offering prostration, it is sunnah to place the knees upon the ground, followed by the hands, and thereafter the face. Additionally, it is sunnah to do the opposite when rising from prostration.
Straightforward. So how do we go into, and it's important, how do we go into prostration? Knees first, hands on the ground, forehead, nose and forehead, right? That's the order. And when you come out, take the head off first, take the hands off onto your knees. Don't use the floor to support yourself and push yourself up, and with your hands on your knees, rise to a standing position. Of course, if you're ill, if you have a weakness and so forth, then you need to use a support, even if it's the ground or even if it's like a table you got next to you can use a support to help yourself up and etc. Even if you haven't and you use it, it doesn't break your prayer or anything. It's just not recommended for no reason. It's disliked if you just take support for no reason. But the sunnah in normal circumstances is knees first, hands, head, and then when you get out of ruku and you stand up, i.e. head off first, then hands, and then the knees onto your feet and to an erect position, inshallah ta'ala. Next one, Hassan.
To say Allahu Akbar when declining for prostration and when rising from it.
Yeah, straightforward. As you go down, Allahu Akbar. As you come out, Allahu Akbar. There's sunnahs. If you didn't say it, you've missed a sunnah. But yeah, of course, say that takbir. Next one.
To prostrate between the palms.
Yeah, so what that means is don't put the palms like, in front of your head like that. Allahu Akbar, subhanallah. No, don't put them down here next to your chest or something like your body. Make sure when you're on the ground, so I'm on the ground doing sajda, so make sure your hands or your head is between your palms in the sajda. So here, that's a bit too high. Here is a bit too low. When I do sajda, Allahu Akbar, I'm placing my head on the ground like this, okay? For ladies, they would hold it slightly lower, okay? So ladies don't have to go the full way, but they can hold it slightly back. The ladies' posture generally in prayers, we're going to see in the next few points, to introduce the few points, is to always remain in a concealed posture, not to show her body or her shape or stretch out and so forth. So hence some of the rulings will differ because there is this concept of modesty and concealment for ladies, and out of respect and honor for them, right? It's like the example of a pearl. It comes from an oyster and it's very precious, so you have to conceal it, and because it has that protection, is valued, right? So this is the idea. It's not, they've got to do this to hide themselves from Allah or something like this. It's just out of respect for the female. May Allah bless the ladies. So next one, Hassan.
Uttering the tasbih, glory be to my Lord Most High, 3 times in the prostration.
Yeah, straightforward. Next one.
It is sunnah for a man to distance his abdomen from his thighs, his elbows from his side, and his arms off the ground.
Yeah, so in sajda, don't have your abdomen, your stomach on your thighs, like close up. Don't have your arms, these are your forearms on the ground, right? And don't have your elbows in like this, do sajda like that. Have your elbows out, but don't poke somebody in your side. If you're in congregation, be wise and just leave your elbows slightly out. Sometimes you do get pushed in, that's not a problem. This is congregation, accommodate others. But if you're praying by yourself, definitely don't keep your elbows in, keep your elbows out. Next one.
It is sunnah for the women to reduce the distance between her limbs by connecting her abdomen with her thighs.
Yeah, so that's what we said. The women don't do that. They don't stretch out and separate things. They stay more together in their posture. Next one.
It is sunnah to completely rise from the prostration, assuming the sitting position to its full. Additionally, it is sunnah to briefly adopt the sitting position between the 2 prostrations.
Yes, so again, we said last time that this is a wajib. We need to mention it in the wajib section, which we did. And then I told you it's going to be mentioning in the sunnah section. So just like coming out of ruku and standing, it says it's sunnah here, we told you it's wajib. Similarly, coming out of the first sajda and sitting is called the jalsa. And then going back into the second a sajda, that whole process is wajib as well. So stand up, sit up, pause, prostrate again is a wajib, right? So rushing that again is not allowed. It's a wajib to do that. So just bear that in mind, right? Although it's mentioned in the sunnah sections, both, and there's the same discussion. So when I mentioned that long discussion, it's for both these points. The same discussion for both points mentioned in the more detailed books of fiqh. And just bear that in mind, inshallah. So make sure you get up, sit still, and go into ruku, sajda and ruku. No, sajda in both cases actually. But come out of ruku, pause, go into sajda. Come out of first sajda, pause while sitting, go into second sajda. Right? Make sure you pause. Okay, next one.
During the brief sitting between the two prostrations, it is sunnah to place the hands on the thighs just as one does in the sitting of the shahab.
Yeah, straightforward. Put your hands on your thighs during that posture. Don't leave them to your side. Next one.
It is sunnah for a man to lay down his left foot while the right foot is allowed to stand upright.
Yeah, so now the posture of sitting for men in salah and the posture of sitting for women in salah. What's the sunnah? So sitting can be done in any way, to be honest. Whatever's comfortable for you. If you're ill and I can't sit like that, I got to sit cross-legged, you can actually do that. You can sit in different positions. There are disliked positions, of course, and I'm going to mention that in the dislike section. But if for an illness or for a reason you can't make this posture, then so be it. But the sunnah way to sit for men is to sit on your left foot, and men know this, right? Straightforward, and make your right foot erect and sit, and the toes need to be bent towards the qibla. So don't do it on the tip of your toes or bend them backwards. Your toes need to be forwards, and then your foot erect like that. I can't really do it with my hand. Do it sideways, show you a bit better. So your toes are on the ground. So this is the ground, yeah. That's your toes, and you've bent them like that. You can't really do it with that. Just one finger and be better. Yeah, there you go. Right. So you can see how it's bent, and your foot is like that. That's the back of your foot, right? So you're sitting on the left, and you've got your right erect, and the fingers of the right are facing the qibla. And it's a tough one for some people. So if you can't do that, you can just put both feet under your buttock or etc. For the ladies, how does it work, Hassan?
It is sunnah for the women to reduce the distance. Sorry, just making notes there.
No, go ahead.
The female is to adopt the tawarruk style of sitting.
Yeah, so it doesn't mention what tawarruk is. It is in the commentary, but tawarruk is different to men. It's not to sit on the left and to have the right erect. It's to push out both legs to either side, but here it's still going to be the right hand side, and to sit on the ground with the buttocks. So obviously the left hand side of the body will be more on the ground, and the right hand side of the body will be slightly off the ground or touching the legs because they're coming out of the right hand side. And that's the tawarruk position. So the ladies would be probably leaning slightly towards the left. I mean, those that get used to it, they can sit upright and they don't have to lean and stuff. But some ladies find that leaning slightly to the left is easier. So that's the sitting position for the ladies, to put the left leg out under the right, really, because the right one's going to be just where it is, and put the left leg that side as well. Both legs to one side, and then obviously the buttocks on the floor. That's the tawarruk position. And that is for the ladies. Right. Bismillah.
It is sunnah to gesture with the index finger. The method of indicating with the finger is to raise it at the time of rejecting the notion of partnership to Allah, and is lowered when affirming.
Yeah, so what do we do in terms of raising the finger in the tashahhud or in the shahada? We say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. What's the procedure here? You'll see different things. You see people moving the finger, they keep it up, they put it up, they put it down, they make a ring out of their thumb, and some people just put it up and down. What is the whole procedure? First of all, there's various hadith, hence you see the differences. They're not made up. They're all based on various narrations. That's our deen. And the Prophet did different things, which is alhamdulillah, brilliant. That's the way of the Prophet ﷺ and how to pray. And every action of the Prophet ﷺ is blessed. However, the hadith in Sahih Muslim, sound hadith, explains that the Prophet ﷺ would raise his finger at the time of the affirmation. Right, so he says the method of indicating his finger is raised at the time of rejecting the notion. He would raise his finger not at the time of affirmation, the time of negation or rejection. Ashhadu, what is the rejection? To a negation, saying there is no God. Ashhadu Allah. La means no, rejection. There is no God. So when you say the rejection, you show with your finger, you're not rejecting the existence of Allah. you're rejecting the existence of any other God. So the one here refers except for one God. You're already saying it without saying it. Whilst you're saying La ilaha, you're already showing you're actually going to say illallah. So when you say illallah, you put it down. So I'll do it as a full kind of procedure. And by the way, you don't. So if you got a flat hand, like you'd have it like this in prayer normally, you can just lift your finger and put it down. Or as you'll see, some people make this kind of ring and they raise their finger like this and then put it down. Right? So that's both are fine. Both are fine. And some people, when they put it down like this, they spread their hand out again. That's fine. If some people, they put it down, they keep it like this until the end of the prayer. That's fine. It's just different interpretations of the hadith and variants of the hadith. So let's do it as an example. So you got your hand, you're reading at-tahiyyatu lillahi wa salawat. You get to the end of at-tashahhud. So you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I'll do that again. You come to the shahada, the shahadatain, the two witnessing or testimonies. The first one is about Allah. Second one is about the Prophet ﷺ. During the one about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is to say there's no God except Allah. When you think there's no God, you raise your finger. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. When you make the exception, you affirm there is God, you lower the finger. And that's it. You can leave it there. You can keep it there, or you can put your hand back to normal. So there's another procedure here. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin. And just carry on with the prayer. So that's the process. And if you don't know what to do, you're not comfortable, you don't do that, it's not the end of the world. You're just not doing a sunnah. So you might see people just leave it all out because they don't feel like there's a particular way, or they're not comfortable or not sure how to do this. That's not a problem as well. It's a sunnah at the end of the day, which should be practiced, and it is by most people. But if you're not sure or you're not comfortable, then there's no harm in leaving it as well. Allahu Alam. Next one, Hassan.
The recitation of the Fatiha after the first two rakats.
So we mentioned this last time already. That in the fard prayers this is referring to. We said it's wajib to read in every rakat, Fatiha in every rakat. It's fard to read in every rakat of prayer, and it's wajib to read Fatiha in every rakat of prayer, whether it's fard, wajib, nafal, sunnah, except the third and fourth rakat of a fard prayer, in which case reading Quran in itself is a sunnah, not even Fatiha. So you don't have to read any Quran, and if you read Quran, is sunnah to read Surah Al-Fatiha, which you should do, of course, right? So in Maghrib, Isha, Zuhr and Asr, the rakats 3 and 4, having read Quran in the 1 and 2, become sunnah, right? And then you would read Fatiha as well. So it's a sunnah to read Fatiha in what is after the first two rakats, i.e. third and fourth rakat. Next one.
The recitation of the Ibrahimiyya in the last sitting of prayer.
Yeah, so the Durood Ibrahimiyya, or the Durood, the Salat al-Ibrahimiyya, which is Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid, and then same again with Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin, etc. That being read in the tashahhud at the end of the salah, after the tashahhud, because the tashahhud finishes after the shahada, is a sunnah. So it's not to be recited in the first sitting, because you stand up for the third rakat. If it's the final sitting, which after a 2 rakat prayer, there's only one sitting anyway. But if it's a 3 or 4 rakat prayer, you'll sit on the first time, and you'll get up before the Durood Sharif. On the third rakat or the fourth rakat, end of your prayer, Maghrib third rakat, Wajib Witr third rakat, other prayers 4 rakats, Zohar, Asr, Sunnah Muakkadas 4 rakats, you will sit and you will read the Tashahhud, Wajib, and it's a Sunnah now to read the Salawat or Durood Sharif, which is the well-known one, which I'm sure you all know, which I recited most of already, and there's a note below about that as well. And then after the Durood Sharif, what will you recite, Hassan?
The Sunnah to supplicate with the words that resemble the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet, not the general talk of the people.
Yeah, so you don't say, oh Allah, grant me food, oh Allah, bring me, this, that, the other. You ask for things that are from the Quran Sunnah, which ask for guidance, ask for taqwa, ask for protection, ask for forgiveness, mercy, protection from the punishment of the grave, protection from debt, not being overpowered by people. So these are the prophetic du'as, the Quranic du'as, the Rabbanas, different ones. رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِن لَّدُنكَ رَحْمَةً رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا. So there's many of them. رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا, ask for sabr, for instance, and good characteristics. Ask for taqwa, ask for karam, Allah make us noble, generous. Ask for knowledge, Rabbi zidni ilma, even, you can ask for that. The Quranic du'as, any one of them is fine. Of course, we're accustomed to reading Rabbi ja'alni maqim as-salati wa min dhurriyyati. It's a common one to recite. It's the one that's often taught. There are many du'as that can be used. Any other Quranic du'a is just as good. And there are actually specific du'as that the Prophet taught the companions, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wa radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, to read at the end of their prayer. So if you could learn one or two of them and practice them, that would be part of the sunnah as well. And not to be like make du'as here that are more I'm not call them worldly, but they are not really from the Quranic and Sunnah. Otherwise, the things you just want to ask yourself, like oh Allah, I wish I get this job, or I wish I get married to this that lady. No, don't be specific, and do that. You can obviously, it's in the Sunnah of the du'as of the prophets to ask for those things and give us halal sustenance. That's the dua of the Sunnah. So make those du'as which include these kind of, give me chastity through marriage, asking for this. So you can do, there are du'as like that from the Sunnah, so those du'as are okay. But the wording that is like more like our wording, we shouldn't be used in this point in the prayer. In fact, if it's very, very much like an ordinary everyday request, they actually say it nullifies the prayer if you were to say that. Like, oh Allah, bring me my food. I mean, you don't even say that, right? It's just bad etiquette. But if you were to say something like that, that would actually break the prayer. We're going to have a section on what breaks the prayer. It's going to be mentioned in there. Certain du'as during the prayer will break the prayer. Obviously, this is at the end of the prayer. If you made it beforehand as well, it would have its ruling as well. So yeah, the next one, Bismillah.
Turning to the right and then the left in the two finishing salams of the prayers.
Yeah, so to say salam is wajib for one salam, and then to turn and say assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, to turn the head to the shoulders and to intend the imam or the people on your right and the people on your left, the angels, the jinn. Actually, in fact, you read on, it's the next point, this sunnah.
In the two finishing salams of the imam, it is sunnah for the imam to intend in both his salams the men praying with him, the guardian angels and the pious jinn, and this is the most correct view.
Next one.
For the follower to intend the imam in the side the imam is on.
Yep.
If, however, the follower is next to the imam, then he is to intend the imam in both the salams, including the people, guardian angels, and the pious jinn.
Yes, so carry on, next one as well.
It is sunnah for the one praying alone to intend only the angels in his finishing salams.
Right, so now it's a case of when you give salam at the end of the prayer, what are you giving salam for? You give salam, as we know, to people, to your fellow Muslims, and in this case we're told to give salam in our prayers to the angel and the jinn, because they'll be praying with the congregation. So if you're in a congregation, if you're the imam, you'll give salam to everyone, and you intend, I'm giving salam to these people, Assalamu alaikum, I'm giving salam to these people, you intend that. If you're behind the imam, then when you prostrate to your right, you intend everybody in your right. Like when you give salam to the left, you intend everybody on the left, and whichever side the imam is on, you'll intend the imam. That's what it's saying here. You don't intend the imam twice. You only intend the imam if you're on either side of the imam. If you're directly behind the imam, that's what it means here, if you're next to the imam. If you're directly behind the imam, then you intend him both sides, not a problem. You're giving him salam twice, it's okay. Also, you intend to give salam to all the pious jinn that have joined you for the salah, and also intend to give the angels who have joined for the salah salam as well in the congregation. If you're praying by yourself, then the hadith states that if you are in a place on a journey, for instance, praying by yourself, and you do the adhan, the iqamah, and you pray, then the jinn, the angels join you in the prayer. So you should give salam to them when you finish your prayer. So it's basically an intention in the salam. I mean, the salam is your prayer is done, but you should have an intention of giving salam to somebody. So if you're alone, it's the angels, and if you're with the congregation, it's the congregation, and including the pious jinn and the angels as well. That's all it really is. Next one, Hassan.
The tone of the second finishing salam should be made lower than that of the first.
Yeah, so first one louder. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Yeah, slightly less. No, not to be massive, like really loud and then really soft. Just less. That's it, sunnah. This is how it's practiced. Next one.
It is sunnah for the follower to say his finishing salams together with the salams of the imam.
Yeah, so the question is, do you wait for the imam to give both salams, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, then the followers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, let the imam finish completely and then you do your salams. That's the opinion of some scholars. It's mentioned in the commentary there that that's the opinion of the two students of Imam Hanifa, the Sahibain. But Imam Hanifa held, and the practice that we practice is, as soon as the imam gives salam to the right, you follow him. You stay behind him, but you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You same or just behind you do the salam. Same as when we talked about the beginning when you do the takbir. Imam Hanifa's position was you do it soon, just straight after, if not as simultaneous as possible with the imam. The Sahibain said no, wait for the imam to finish his takbir and then you do your takbir after. Give a bit of a delay or a bit of a separation. Allah knows best, but yeah, so it's a similar principle you can see, right? Next one.
To begin the finishing salam from the right side is sunnah.
That's it. So Assalamu alaikum to the right first, then the left. Yeah, next one.
It is sunnah for the latecomer to the group prayer to wait until the imam has given both the finishing salams.
Okay, the latecomer is a technical term here, okay? So I need you to understand latecomer. There are three possible, so it's congregational prayer. There are three possible followers. One they call a muqtadi, is normal follower, meaning what is the actual definition? Somebody who joins the imam at the beginning of the prayer and ends the prayer with the imam. A normal person, you join at the beginning, end at the beginning. You didn't miss anything, you didn't do your prayer different to the imam, exactly as the imam, 100%, beginning to end. Then you have the masbuq, and it says latecomer, it's obvious, and the brothers that attend congregation will know. If you miss a rakaat, or 2 or 3 or 4 sometimes, then you join the imam at some point during the salah, but having missed a rakaat, you are called a masbuq. So a masbuq is defined as somebody who missed the beginning of their prayer with the imam, and therefore has to make up what he's missed after the imam finishes his prayer, whether that's 1 rakaat, 2, 3 or 4. It could be all 4, and because you join the imam in the last sitting. But normally it's 1, 2, maybe 3, 4 as well, depending how late you got to the congregation. That's a latecomer. The third possible scenario is you join the imam at the beginning of the prayer with the imam, but then for a valid excuse, not just for no reason, for a valid excuse you were delayed and you didn't finish your prayer with the imam, you finished your prayer after the imam finished by a rak'ah or more. How can you miss a rak'ah whilst you started the prayer with the imam? One way, which we're not going into too detail, is if you fell asleep but didn't break your wudu. Okay, how do you fall asleep and not break your wudu? Please refer back to the section on purification and wudu in particular. But let's say you fell asleep in your prayer and you whilst asleep you didn't break your wudu. There's ways of doing that. Keep your wudu whilst asleep. And then you woke up and you missed a rakat. So when you finished the prayer, you said, I already prayed 3 rakats. I'm sure I was with the imam from the beginning. So you're called the lahiq. So there's a muqtadi, beginning to end. Masbuq, missed the beginning, makes you up after the end, right? You didn't miss the end of the prayer, you missed the beginning of the prayer, so you didn't join at the beginning. Lahiq, somebody who was with the imam at the beginning, but for a valid excuse, missed a rak'ah or more, and then has to also make that up at the end of the prayer. So what do we do at the end of the prayer if you have to make up something? So you got to, the imam's going to finish and give salams. What do? You wait for the salam. So Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. I've got to make up a rakat. I arrived late. You get up after the second salam of the imam, and then you can get up earlier. So it's sunnah to get up after the second one. You can get up earlier, which is what some people do anyway. It's okay. But yeah, so you would wait till the second salam is finished, and then you would stand. You say Allahu Akbar as a latecomer, masbuq, and you say, let's say you just miss 1 rakat. You stand up. You read A'udhu Billah, Bismillah, because you're going to read Quran now. So this is another situation where you read A'udhu Billah for the Quran, according to Imam Abu Hanifa. You read it anyway, according to Imam Abu Yusuf, because you're praying Salah. So you read A'udhu Billah, Bismillah, Surah Al-Fatiha, and the Surah, because you didn't get the first rakat with the Imam. That's where your fard and wajib recitation was. And so you need to make sure you do a Fatiha and a Surah. And then the rest of the prayer is normal, Ruku, Sujood, Tashahhud, Salam, right? So make up 1 rakat basically, but because you need to make up 1 rakat, you finish your prayer and your prayer is done. And the ruling here is to wait for the imam to give salam, both salams, before you stand up to make up that 1 rakat. And that actually, I think, does that conclude our section on the sunan of salah, right?
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. So on the next page, there's a short section on the adab of salah. So you read through the adab and then we'll leave the section on the whole prayer, how to pray a prayer from beginning to end. We'll cover next time, inshallah ta'ala. So if you carry on, Hassan, we'll just read the next page.
The etiquette of prayer. It is from the etiquettes of prayer for a man to withdraw his hands from his sleeves at the commencement of the opening Allah.
Yep, so if you've got your hands, and I've not got long sleeves to show you really, but if you've got your hands in your sleeves, right, and it's cold day, right, what would you do that for? It's a cold day, right? Or sometimes people put cloaks on themselves, right? Coldness, usually for a reason. And you now want to start the prayer because you come in. You don't do this and start praying. Allahu Akbar. Start praying. It's sunnah, it's etiquette, as it says, to take out the hands, Allahu Akbar, and then you can put them back in and then cover your hands again. I can't really do it with this, but imagine long sleeves, right? So it's sunnah, it's adab. So what's the difference between sunnah and adab, just to mention? Sunnah is something the Prophet did regularly, all the time, every time, as part of an act of worship Okay, that's called Sunnatul Huda. Sunnatul Huda. The sunnahs of the Prophet that are related to our worship, which are sunnahs we get rewarded for and we should really perform, and not following them is a blemish on us. That's how we should follow the Prophet ﷺ. Then there are also practices he did as acts of worship that were just good etiquettes that actually enhance our prayers, and he may have shown them sometimes and other times not doing it as much. Or on rare occasions it occurs. Right? They're still recommended, it's still good, and they're sunnah. There's another type of sunnah which isn't mentioned, it's not part of this book, is the sunnahs of the habits of the Prophet ﷺ. So in the food he ate, his style of walking, for instance, what else, his clothing, for instance, right? These aren't acts of worship that he was showing us how to do as worshippers, but if you follow the Prophet ﷺ with the intention of just following him and being more like the Prophet ﷺ, you will get a reward. And these are called Sunnatul Idaah, the sunnah of habits. The Prophet had his own personal habit, which are the best of all. He's the example for us. So we should follow him in that, but they're not the same level of requirement as the ones that are part of worship. So the sunnahs of fasting, the sunnahs of Hajj, the sunnahs of Zakah, the sunnahs of prayer, it being a major act of worship, right? Then you got habits like you walk, talking etiquettes and how the Prophet would speak and repeat things 3 times, and these kind of things, of course, is brilliant and recommended and rewarding to do them, but they're called Sunnatul Idaah, sunnahs of habits. Sunnatul Huda is sunnahs of guidance, so the guidance on how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best of ways. Qul in kuntum tuhibbuna Allah fattabi'uni. Say if you love Allah, then follow me, i.e. in the sunnahs I legislate for you for your worship and your getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet didn't eat onions. So if you don't want to eat onions out of sunnah, following the Prophet's habits, that's fine. Or garlic as well, right? But we like garlic and onions, right? It's good for our health. We actually, let's cook them and eat them and eat them. Some people have them raw. It's not a blemish because you're not left the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. You're just not following the sunnah of his habits. He had a reason for it, which was obviously he said I converse with the jinn, with the angels, so I don't eat these things because of the bad odor that comes from them. So we don't converse with the angels, so we're not in that same category. So it wouldn't be a blemish or a wrong or any loss of rewards if we didn't eat onions or we ate onions and garlic because we like them or they're part of our diet. It's fine. So there's 2 categories of sunnahs here we need to be aware of. The adab is it's still from the first category of adab of worship or acts of worship, but just on a lesser level of recommendation or requirement, or they're not always going to happen because of their specific circumstance, like hands in sleeves. If it's not always going to be the case, right? So next one.
It is recommended to look at the area of prostration when standing, at the top part of the feet when bowing, at the tip of the nose when in prostration, at the lap when sitting, and at the shoulders when giving the final salams.
Jazakallah khairan. If anybody's wondering what the chirping sound is, it's Hassan's bird. What's the name of your bird, Hassan?
He's called Fudge.
Fudge. So is Fudge is a budgie, or is it what bird is it?
It's a budgie.
Yeah. So sorry about that. I don't mind. It doesn't disturb me. Just to let you know, there is a bird in the background. It's in Hassan's home, and it's chirping away. It's quiet sometimes, I've noticed, but it does get going. It's just got going again. And it's sunnah to have pets. The Prophet mentioned there was a little boy. He had a pet. He died. The pet bird died. The Prophet consoled him. So it shows that it's permissible to have pets. And if you've got one, mashallah. Does he give you a hard time, Hassan?
He is today.
He is today, okay, mashallah. So normally you're quite, I actually haven't noticed him in the past, although I think I've heard sounds of like what's going on. I didn't realize it was a bird before. Today I have realized now, mashallah, earlier on as well. So, excuse me. So, during the prayer, where do you look? So, it's etiquettes to look at the place of prostration while standing, to look at the feet whilst in the bowing, the ruku position, and to look at the tip of the nose when in sajda. So don't look at the sides of your eyes or top of your, you need a form of concentration. We have a qibla so we can concentrate. Qibla for prayers is the Kaaba, qibla for du'as is up. Doesn't mean Allah's in the Kaaba, Allah's up. It's just a qibla giving us direction, giving us focus, right? So to get focus in the prayer, look at the place of prostration while standing, your feet whilst in, or between your feet whilst in ruku, and towards the tip of your nose whilst in sajda to keep the concentration, inshallah ta'ala. Next one.
It is recommended to resist coughing as much as one is able to do so.
Yeah, so don't cough without a reason, but if you have to cough, and you may well have to, then restrain it as much as possible, either by obviously holding it in if you can, or by using your hand or maybe a handkerchief or tissue or something. And in these days, please do get rid of it. Although if you're at home and nothing's happened to your family or anyone, then it's just general hygiene. But yeah, but be careful. Alhamdulillah. Next one.
It is recommended to keep the mouth closed when yawning.
Yeah, so if you're yawning, I'm going to pretend now, don't go like that and open your mouth. If you do have to yawn, restrain it like that. Right, I'm just pretending, by the way, I'm not yawning. And I am tired though. And if you have to open your mouth, then so you're going to be praying with your right hand on top of your left, right down here for men, but just to show you a bit clearly, right? Clasping for men, and obviously with the women of that. What do you do if you have to open your mouth? You don't open your mouth like that in prayer and yawn. I'm not going to do it again. But what you do is you raise your right hand, you keep your left hand there, and you yawn. Oh. You try not to make a sound as well. So you strain the sound, you just strain the movements. But if you have to, I've yawned. Carry on with your prayer. So to cover the mouth with the back of the right hand, you don't have to touch your face, but just cover it over, like don't show people that you don't want a fly to go in or something as well, right? Then that whole process is etiquette in the prayer. Yep. Next one.
It is recommended for the imam and the people to stand for the prayer at the time when the caller says, "Come to success." Yeah, which in Arabic is "Hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah." Right, that is come to success. And that is when it's recommended, it's adab. To be honest, in the books of fiqh, in more detailed books, it says you should stand when the imam asks you to stand sometimes, because he may want to sort out the rows, he may see people are not paying attention, focus, it's going to take a long time to do things. So he might say, please can you move forward, stand up, and at the same time you could ask the muqim, the muadhin, to do the iqama. So sometimes it's not a case of stand at this point, sometimes it's a case of the imam might need to sort things out. He might actually say to you, remain sitting for now. Right? You might actually do that, but I don't see a reason for that. But the general etiquette is when the imam the muadhin reaches hayya ala al-falah, hayya ala al-falah, you stand up. Why? Because next part is qad qamat as-salah. Salah is established. So let's establish salah and say Allahu Akbar. Right? And that's what the imam should do according to the opinion of Imam Muhammad and Imam Zufar and Imam Abu Hanifa, I believe. So what's that? You should say Allahu Akbar when? If you read on. It is recommended that the imam begins with the prayer when the caller says the prayer is commencing.
So normally what we do in congregation, what we might see, I've seen both, is the muadhin who's reading the iqama, he says قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر. Imam says Allah Akbar, right? So he says the Allah Akbar after the iqama has been completely read by the muadhin. That's one way of doing it, and probably a common way of doing it. You will see, inshallah, you may have seen, I have seen it, I've practiced it myself, that when the muadhin reaches hayya ala salah, hayya ala salah, hayya ala al-falah, hayya ala al-falah, qad qamatis salah, Allahu Akbar, you might hear the imam just say Allahu Akbar at that point. Right? Hasn't that happened to you?
A few times.
Few times. So you've been behind an imam where the imam just said Allahu Akbar at that point. Were you a bit surprised?
Yes, because normally we was always, at mosques we were always praying namaz and the iqamah is done and then the imam...
Exactly, so we're more accustomed to the full iqamah being done and then the imam saying Allahu Akbar. But as you experience sometimes, and I've done this myself, I practice both. I try to actually do this because it's the etiquette. But if you forget, it's not a problem, just do it at the end. But yeah, you can do that. It's an etiquette, right? So, because what does it mean? It means the prayer is established. The prayer is established. Allah Akbar, establish it. Allah Akbar. Although in Arabic, the meaning of qad qama, qad, those who study Arabic, can mean it's almost about to start. In one meaning, qad means it's done. But it's not done. Nobody started the prayer. So Allah Akbar, start it. It's almost done. It still means almost done, so do it straight away. But some say almost, as in you can still say Allah Akbar, La ilaha illallah, and then say Allah Akbar. It's still almost done. It's very close. So literally, it's going to take you 2 more seconds to say those words, 3-4 seconds, and you'll start the prayer. That 3-4 seconds isn't a gap from qad qamatis salah. It mentions a little note there, but yeah, it's fine. That's just an etiquette anyway. So if you're not experienced it, you've seen it, it's not a problem. If you do ever come across it, then it's mentioned in the books of fiqh. That's the etiquette of the prayer. And thank you, Hassan, for today. Jazakumullah khairan, and we'll conclude there. Thank you. Jazakumullah khairan to everyone, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.